Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to the third restreamed prelim of the Ori and the Will of the Wisps main quest order tournament here in 2023, brought to you live from the Ori speedrunning community. Today we are featuring Dadoja versus Bobies, two excellent runners, and I couldn't do it myself, so me to kill is joined by Covert Muffin. Hi, Muffin. How are you doing?
Hello, I am doing quite good, and we have a pretty good matchup here today. I mean, both of these runners have only done one qualifier so far each. So during this round of the tournament, everybody is sort of doing like free for all races whenever they can, and they need to complete at least three of potentially up to five potential no reset runs of this amazing speed game in order to try and benchmark an average of their best three times in order to qualify for the next stage, which is going to be a single elimination bracket stage, except the finals, which will be a best of three. But today for Bobies and Dado, Bobies is definitely a little bit favored with a bit of a higher PB, but Dado with his first qualifier came within a minute of his PB, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And we're also yet again gonna see a bit of a difference in routing for both our runners because not only does the Doja use God mode, and I do believe also controller, but Bobies, in comparison, doesn't use God mode, is on a whole different patch of the game, and also does the wisps in completely different order. So, as it may seem that one player is ahead of the other, yeah, that might just be routing difference. And we'll see how that turns out. And we have seen already that God mode can make a difference, but it also just can slow you down. So let's see how it's gonna go for both our runners.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like both of the I love seeing runners, especially in these qual stages where they do different routes because it can give us like a nice flavor of like what to expect as we progress in brackets. And the really cool thing too here is that like especially with both of these runners having like four quals each that they could still potentially do, like they're doing one here now. They have a lot of time still in order to be able to bust out these runs, right? And so quals are going to be ending on the 20th of this fair month. And then after that, we will be diving into brackets. But that being said, it sounds like our runners are ready. So we are going to be underway. Bobby's is going to be featured in the top right with Dado in the top left. And we have our casters in the bottom left to kill, as well as Cool Cacao.
Yeah,
Excellent.
courtesy of Apple, our N3, just Googling synonyms for your name. I love that. Honestly, it's
I
great.
love you
Also,
folks.
loading times being a thing on the left. Um, we're getting into the start of the game. Just your normal, getting some spirit light, trying to get sentry and sword as soon as possible to be able to move around the world faster. So we're gonna collect this since this category yeah, just follows the main quest order. We of course have to get the torch and defeat a big angry wolf very, very soon. So, in preparation for that, we'll see both runners go for the keystones in, well, the fast way possible. So, let's see how it turns out. I know that Bobies will go for the torch hovers. I am not entirely sure if the Doja will go for it, but regardless, we will see some cool tech for sure.
Yeah, so over on the right, Bobby's is going to set up for the first of two difficult tricks, trying to jump at a precise time. Nicely done. Oh, just gets a little caught there. Yeah, and then gets a bonk. But there we go. Third try, they're going to be floating over with those upslings, maintaining their verticality there as they're going through. And yeah, with the torch, we can't actually grab onto this blue moss. So on the right, Bobby's going for a really difficult jump, and he gets it first try with Dado matching his pace. And does Dado on the left get it? And they also get it. Wow, that is an incredibly precise jump. And like I feel like the total voodoo 2 kill of like not getting it first try just makes it feel nigh impossible.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely one of those tricks. If you get it first try, you can be there for a good while. But also want to point out that we do have some delay on Dadoja's side, which means that he's actually about 3 seconds or even 5 seconds ahead currently at the first keystone. So even though on the right might look in favor, we have a totally different race on our hands. And we're getting Bobies first on screen to be opening the keystone door as we're doing a quick resync. So to get the timers onto the same time. And
Yeah,
now
so
we approach the first fight.
Yeah, so really fascinating thing is that in this tournament, because this game has like a lot of variance in the loads and stealth, in order to make a more comparable atmosphere between the runners, in order to enhance competition overall for the tournament, we decided to make the format to use timers with time without loads. So, AKA loadless time, which basically pauses the timer every single time a runner loads, so that for the grand majority of time that the game's loading, the timer's going to be paused. So all we're going to be comparing between our two runners are going to be gameplay. So if you see desync on the timers below the game screens, that's just simply because somebody may have longer loads than somebody else. But that being said, we are getting into the fight with the first boss of the run itself. So these torch hovers, as long as matching the patterns, is going to be crucial. And Dado with a beautiful fight, and Bobby is just very, very slightly behind his opponent. So well played from both of the runners.
Yeah, you can see they are within like 1 second. As you see the load time, literally 1 second apart, as they are gonna drop down to sword our substitute for our handy torch, which will be used throughout the entire run, and specifically by Bobies, because he, compared to most other runners in the tournament, is mainly going to use sword and shuriken to deal damage towards all bosses. So that will be something to look out for, as it completely changes the way to approach combat, as well as some routing decisions, because some of the shards are not as necessary. But for now, we have only the sword, and we need that to move around with the sword hovers, as well as to kill some slimes, to get their spirit light, to be able to buy the aforementioned sentry. Let's see. Oh, Bobies, not quite getting up. Dadoja getting it, and now we're approaching one of the most terrifying tricks of the... Oh, actually, there's a whole other skill in between.
Yeah, so we're going to head down for double jump as we see a quits menu from both of our runners in order to speed through some unnecessary dialogue in order to progress with the game itself. So here, heading down, nice sword slashes. Good movement so far, but as 2Kill mentioned, after we end up getting double jump, there's going to be some really tricky movement. There's a lot of synergy between the two, but upcoming here, we're going to see what our runners are going to be potentially doing. If we see one of the runners go down for a keystone, then they would be opting to be skipping a certain trick, but currently we have to just sort of wait until we get double jump. But with double jump and sword combined, there's a lot of really subtle movement aspects that we could see. If we see like a double jump or a sword float to be said, so like canceling a double jump with a sword and then sword slashing immediately allows us to maintain our upwards velocity. As we see Bobies on the right doing just that. So we'll see if Dado goes for it. They do, and just a little bit too far to the left for Dado, and they get it second try. Very nicely done. So Bobies is going to be moving a little bit ahead of their opponent. And so now here, this is crucial to watch for. Do they go for this keystone or do they go up? So Bobies is going to go up. So they are going to be going for the key door skip. And let's see if Dado is going to be going for the lever. No, they are also going for the key door skip. So this could be a massive point of contention for the runners, as this is one of the most precise skips in the run.
Yeah, because as we've learned from the first game and as continued in the second game, walls can be suggestions, but sometimes need to be followed very strictly. So in this case, that is exactly what we're doing. We're luring this enemy to be able to refresh our double jump with a sword down slash, and very nicely done by Bobies. First try, needs to get up here, easily done. Let's see if Dado on the left can follow through with it as well.
Oh, looks a little high, but no, they're able to get the pogo, and they get past both of the really incredibly tricky jumps. So there are really like 3 to 4 incredibly precise and difficult parts, but both the runners showing good awareness with exactly how far away they want to be from the wall, exactly how high they want to be, and then just like measuring both of those. Because if they bonk their head, that stops their upward momentum, and so that would cause them to fall back down. But no, both of them showing expert control over that double jump micro. Very impressive showcase so far. I'm just going to be so excited to see what our runners do when they get more pieces of tech to play around with.
Yeah, Will of the Wisps is known for the combination of different techs, and so absolutely amazing. For example, Regen. In the base game, just an ability to heal. In the speed game, one of the most potent ways to get speed. So we'll see that later on. For now, it is mainly just there because it is on the way, it is convenient, it potentially helps with fights. But Bobies is gonna be the first person to potentially get to Sentry. Let's see if he decides to go for the over cutscene skip that is about to come up after we kill some more slimes. We want to hit that 400 Spirit Light for Sentry, and Bobies seems to have that. Dadoja should also be able to get the last remaining XP here very soon. Oh, is a bit low. That's about 3 more slimes, but should be able to get it. And we also see the resilience on Bobies' side.
Yeah, I love the micro from these runners in particular with grabbing the Spirit Light. The Spirit Light's going to be popped up after they kill an enemy. A little bit scary for Bobies right here. He's on like a fraction of an HP, but that's okay. But I guess more importantly explain is on the right, we're going to be watching Bobies as they are going to be trying to go for this cutscene skip. And good, nice, one more difficult part, and they are able to get it. So now they're going to jump and then go over, and they are able to jump over the cutscene trigger. So now the question, as Dado's experience is looking good, they just have to kill this last flower. Are they going to be going for the skip? No, they are not. So Bobby's going to be saving a little bit of time, but then just taking a little bit of a death, nailing a mid-year sentry as well. Very impressive.
Yeah, incredibly cool to see. And we're heading to the next area of this game, which is this bow room. And everyone who's played in this bow room knows that mosquitoes like to annoy us. So hopefully our runners are able to maneuver around that. And let's see what Dadoja is doing about the sentry jumps. I know he's playing on controller, not sure about any kind of binds possible for the grounded sentry jumps at least. But it looked like it would be a manual setup, so in that case, definitely gonna be careful to hit those as we move along the world.
Yeah, something going to be interesting to talk to Dado about if they join us for an interview after the run is they are toggling their user interface on and off. So that's like actually kind of interesting to me. I wonder if that's like in order to save some time or something due to lag or something else. While Bobies is just opting to have their user face on the entire time, because unlike in Ori and the Blind Forest, like the user interface doesn't actually really do much. But a little bit of interesting tech from Bobies is that during portions where they have reduced sort of horizontal velocity, is that once they gain enough height, they are actually double jumping out of their movement immediately. And this actually allows us to accelerate a little bit faster, right? Allows us to cancel things like sword slashes and be able to start accelerating in a horizontal direction a little bit sooner. And so that is actually like a really cool tech. And Bobies has been doing this all over the place. And Dado as well for a good amount of the part. But Bobies is just on point so far with their sword and double jump micro.
Yeah, great to see, always just saving those little amounts of time that absolutely do it up. This is, after all, about a 1 hour category, so every kind of small save that you can do numerous times will add up. So let's see on the right. Next trick coming up is the down swim. In order to get down there, we need to go through the dirty water. So we heal, damage ourselves so we don't get damaged by the water, then try to hit the save point, respawn with 4 health, and try to swim. Nicely done. Textbook down swim. Let's hope it all goes well for Dadoja as well.
Yeah, it's incredibly precise and it's blind. You have to like it's funny because we use like various sound cues from like taking damage, and that's how we sort of measure where we are in the moment. Oh, Bobies just barely accidentally being a little bit too far to the right on that sentry jump. So pressing sentry and an upswing on the same frame while you're on the ground is going to build us a bunch of height at the cost of an energy, or doing it 3 frames apart exactly when we're in the air. But yeah, on the left, Dado is going to try and match Bobies with the swim. Oh, shoots an arrow by accident, but yeah, nice. Okay, good regen. They got popped a little bit further left than maybe they wanted, but still gets the checkpoint. It's not over yet. Has to finish the second part where they weave left, weave right, just a little bit too far to the left and not far down enough. And nicely done. Dado gets it on second try on the second part. That is very impressive to me.
Funnily enough, the many directions of the controller can be a bit distracting in this case, because
Yeah, true.
WASD, you have a clear pattern of, oh, do this for one tick, do this for another tick, whereas it's way easier to, well, misuse this on the side of the controller. But talking about speed, as this is a speed game, Bobies has gotten dash. That just speeds up everything, and is one of the reasons why we get to this area, of course, to be able to proceed, and means we can just gain so much more speed and go up. And one major difference, route difference, coming up right now is that Bobies is gonna do the Qualox Hollow trial. Because as mentioned before, he is going for the Shuriken route, and Shuriken costs an extra 800 Spirit Light. So by doing this, not combat, but Spirit Trial, we're gonna get 1000 Spirit Light for maybe a time loss of 30 seconds. So that is faster than just collecting random Spirit Light off the world.
Yeah, so funny enough, this actually used to be a core portion of the Spirit Light we got, like right and within the first like month or two of speedrunning the game after it came out, is that we would just do this trial because the like 1000 is a lot, and it's like all for what, like 30 seconds or so. And so now, of course, like years later, the EXP route for the optimal world record route is definitely a lot more optimized. But another route divergence here is we're going to actually see Dado end up coming over to pick up a shard, which is going to allow us to increase the effectiveness of bow. And oh yeah, just not equipping the bow there. So they fall back down, just have to get back up on the Crusher. But wow, I just kind of glossed over it. But Bobies did a really, really beautiful swim to get out, which was actually the more difficult portion of the blind swing.
Yeah, getting up is definitely harder than getting down. Let's see if the Dadoja can do it. You need to position yourself very carefully on these spikes to be able to sentry jump up without taking damage. Then getting to that first save point is actually the hard part, so hopefully can manage on the second try. Not quite. Bobies, in the meantime, has gotten the teleporter, so we'll try to avoid, or is almost at the teleporter, so after that we'll try to avoid Hornbug for a bit. Because after all, this is all challenges. This is a all challenges subcategory, but we aren't fully equipped just yet. Bobies, for example, doesn't have his shuriken yet. So to ensure that we can defeat the boss as quickly as possible, we'll just do it later. It's fine.
Indeed, yeah, and that's mainly because we're going to be getting a bunch of upgrades throughout the run, and it doesn't actually have a flag, right? So a little bit about main quest order as a category is, oh, Bobies, yeah, just getting a little bit of lag there, not getting the necessary height, but they're able to get up there with a second sentry jump and then beautiful wave dash to the right. But yeah, so for MQO in general as a category, it was sort of devised in order to be able to sort of gate getting launch like 10, 15 minutes earlier in this category, depending on what your personal best time is overall. And this just makes a lot of late game routing a lot more interesting for runners and the likes. But so the stipulation for the category is basically you have to hit very specific story based flags throughout the game in its natural progression. So we will be doing some things sort of that seem out of sequence, such as doing like Hornbug and stuff out of sequence, but there actually just isn't a flag associated with Hornbug that we have to worry about for the sake of MQO itself.
Yeah, and Bobies on the right, if you see that, had to reload a save because he got stuck in an animation, and that can really screw you over, so reloading there is just the safer option. Dadoja is actually ahead of PB currently, so
wow,
really nice. Oh yeah, okay. Actually, Bobies missed the save point that you need to hit after getting the tree, since he did the kind of tree animation skip. He didn't get the save afterwards, so the tree didn't save.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
because
that's
there isn't
valid.
a save on the tree.
Or yeah, so yeah, the save point happens like after the little like tree cutscene, unless you do I think the like bow strat or something, and then zoom.
Yep.
But yeah, so Bobies is going to have Bash now. They are going to be heading over into Glades itself with that Bash, because Bash is the flag in order to open up Glades, and we're going to be heading over in towards Wellspring. And so Dado is going to be heading down over to the Bash tree. Or no, oh yeah. So with Bash, after Dado has gotten the Bash tree, they're going to be coming over here, which is another route divergence. And so they're setting up for a way dash on the left. Oh, doesn't quite get it, just a little bit mistimed. And yeah, okay, so something happened there where they accidentally spent a fraction of an energy doing regen, and that just happens within the game. So they can't go for it on a second attempt. But that's okay. That's okay. But there they just picked up their second shard that is going to be enhancing bow for them. And this is going to be Dado's main way for dealing damage to bosses as we sort of go through. Because in like sort of the latter third or half-ish of the run, we're going to be doing a massive boss rush after we progress the story far enough. But on the right, Bobies picking up Overcharge, going to be upgrading Reckless, as well as picking up Wing Clip to be able to deal extra damage to flying enemies. And this is going to be really nice, I believe, later in Willow's End for the Elemental boss fight. But that being said, as Bobies is going to be heading over towards Wellspring, Dado is going to go talk to Qualak and then go follow in Bobies' footsteps. But this is not nearly as big of a time differential as you think, and that's just simply because Dado had to pick up some additional shards.
Yeah, and on the note of Wing Clip, since Bobies does have 2 free slots during the entire run that the Dadoja has to fill with the bow upgrades, as mentioned, that means he can permanently equip Reckless, he can permanently equip Wing Clip, and there are a bunch of like flying enemies in just random fighting arenas, so it just helps with the damage and increasing the damage output. But now we're getting into Wellspring, a lot of cutscenes that need to be skipped, some cutscenes that can't be skipped, so we will be seeing some lore. And on the left, we hopefully don't see text appearing. By dashing and jumping, yes, the Dadoja managed to avoid a little cutscene where this Gorlek miner that we're passing by is complaining about destroying his wall, so fair enough. And Bobby's trying to get one of the wave dashes. Oh, gets it now. Oh no!
Yeah,
Oh no!
just accidentally continued sliding with that up slash, and that can just happen. So they have a few different ways that you can end up building height. There, yeah, see, they just fell down a little bit, but ooh, they avoided the damage source there, so they were able to get up. So yeah, just a little bit of trickiness, but also something I want to just like commend Bobies for is that they have really good menu management. Like they take very little time to unequipped shards. So they actually unequipped overcharge. And yeah, they're like a fraction of a second. And this is like a nice advantage for keyboard and mouse in general is that if you know where you want to just sort of like menu, you can just hover your mouse cursor in that spot on the screen. And so just watch Bobby's mouse cursor every single time they actually open up that shard menu. And you can just see how fast they're going to go through. And so that's a nice sort of input method advantage as Dado does a beautiful cutscene skip there on the left as they are going to be following suit down in sort of activating Wellspring. And they are actually going to be going for things in a little bit of a different order where we saw Bobies get the energy cell first. Dado instead is going to be opening up the exit first. Or entrance, excuse me.
Yeah. Oh god. This is also Wellspring being notorious for horrendous loads, and Bobies has not quite the best PC, unfortunately. It struggles with load times sometimes, so if something doesn't load, it's Wellspring. 99% of the time, it's Wellspring, and it definitely loses time, but it shouldn't be too much, hopefully. So Dadoja now also starting the cutscene as Bobies is finishing out the first floor. The first floor is, I think, probably the shortest floor in all of Wellspring with all the skipping we do. But it is, as you see, very, very hard on the PC because there's a lot to load in at the same time.
Yeah, interesting routing thing here, 2Kill. Dado actually ended up skipping the Spirit Light on the way up to Wellspring entrance. So I wonder what they're going to do to make up that deficit. Or maybe they forgot to grab it, or maybe they do have like a different Spirit Light route. So I definitely will be watching for that as they progress through the mid game in particular. But there is a really important upgrade that we need to purchase at the top of Wellspring, which is going to allow us to fast travel from anywhere. As Bobies on the right going to be picking up grapple.
Yeah, that is the ability that lets us grapple onto these blue plants scattered around Wellspring as well as the blue moss. It's also helpful in other areas, but mostly used in this dungeon, so we're mostly gonna see it here as we're making our way to the second floor. That was a bit scary. And we're gonna get a bit of a taste of combat now and see the difference in approaches here, as there is a bit of a fight room and Wellspring being Wellspring with another load.
Yeah, and 2Kill I like was not bloviating at all. It's like Wellspring is like one of the more taxing areas in the entire game. But here we go. Bobies is going to be equipping that shuriken, starting off with some sword slashes with double jump cancels, looking to put a shuriken on the enemy as they are going to be chasing them down as well. Gorlek on the left, shuriken in the face, but oh no, gets punched away. This is now turning into an MMA fight, like before our eyes. But no, Bobi's nice sword tech there is going to be utilizing that shuriken as well to just sneak in some additional damage at very little cost for the amount of time between their ability to throw a shuriken as well as attack with the sword. Nicely done, Bobies.
Yeah, well done. As both are loading Wellspring. It's a Wellspring moment. And Bobies is gonna be the first to start the... Well, we don't turn the wheel, we just kind of ignore it as the Dadoja is approaching the fight room, and we're getting a bit of a high five as Bobies is heading out and Dado is heading into the fight room. Let's see how the fight goes for him. We, of course, have the difference with Bo, where you can pretty much just stand in one spot and press one button.
Yeah, I know this is like kind of behind the point, try and avoid doing this when casting, but like Dado on controller, busting out a midair sentry just like completely confidently in order to get in here. I'm definitely going to be watching him closely to see if he continues to bust out midair sentries, because like, does he have a bind? But it's like, it is a frame perfect 3-frame separation, which may seem fancy, but it actually is a lot more difficult as a human being to do a 3-frame separation rather than a 1 or even a 2-frame separation for whatever reason. And so just busting those out, that frame perfect trick, is just very impressive, as Bobi's going to be going for the mid-air and not hitting that timing window, just going to be 1 frame off.
I mean, Muffin, you have to consider, though, the world record holder of this category is a controller user. So...
Yeah, I'm going to put Scarfelt in a classification of her own.
Fair enough.
But Truche, yeah.
It's definitely a thing you can kind of get used to. And especially, like, if you have a way to, like, slide your thumb across the buttons or something similar, it is fairly doable to get a rhythm down. But
yeah,
I agree, it is definitely not easy.
Yeah, very impressive, very impressive. As Bobies is going to be going towards the escape, and they are going to be going for the Sikinar skip. Doesn't quite get it, so they are going to be quitting to menu. I think this might be a backup for the strat that allows them to enter a little bit quicker in order to skip the cutscene. But yeah, just being very slightly off with their timing and spacing there. So yeah, they are going to be entering the cutscene with a backup. They are only going to have 2 energy. But the good news is that in this escape, you don't need the refill. The energy actually isn't the important part. Really, it's just the health is the major concern. So as long as Bobies doesn't take too much damage, they are going to be able to get through confidently. And with that fast menuing and disabling overcharge, they are going to be not taking double damage anymore. And so very nicely done.
And it looks like Dado was able to catch up a bit towards the start of the escape. It was a 50-second deficit at Grapple Tree, and it seems to be like going down to like 30 seconds here. So
wow.
Very nicely done. And also was only 5 seconds behind of PB at Grapple Tree, so Dado is definitely having a great run here.
Yeah, so far so good. Very smooth play with both of our runners coming into these escape sequences, which can be deceptive, right? Like as a normal player, like yes, they are definitely like difficult and really spooky going through them for the first time. But it's like speedrunners, we just have like the motions memorized. But still, I missed bash angle, I missed grapple timing because grapple is one of the most finicky skills within this game, right? Can just lead to certain doom. And then if you take a death, that's right. There's no checkpoints in the escape sequences. You have to start the entire thing over again. But both of our runners putting on a very confident display. Very nice. Well done. Oh man. Dado was actually kind of close to soft locking there. Gave me a little bit of a heart attack, but didn't. If you sword slash on a specific frame, leaving the escape, it actually ends up soft locking. You have to like quit the menu and start the entire escape sequence again. Oh boy. But yeah, we see Bobies going into the water is going to be heading over to Luma Pools. And we actually aren't going to do the entirety of Luma Pools because, once again, with main quest order, that would be sort of breaking sequence, which is the fun constraint that we do for this mid range category. Excuse me. Sorry. However, it does not stop us from getting Water Dash as well as the second waypoint right before the boss fight here in Luma Pool. So we're going to see where Dado goes from here, but if they match pace with Bobies or if they do a slightly different route.
Yeah, this is of course the faster route to go, but it can mean that you do need to be doing some mid-air sentry jumps. So if you are not too familiar with that, you might want to go to woods first, get the cool cutscene so you get glide to be able to just comfortably glide there. But it seems like Dado is following suit and is also gonna enter Luma Pools next. This very pretty area, very, very big in the story, but we won't see any of that for now. We will see that later. For now, we need to get up to that lever and activate it. Oh, that was some overcharge damage on both sides. Wow.
Yeah, Bobies actually also dashing into the spikes itself, going for some mid-air sentries. Bobies is able to get in there. Very nicely done. Those are, I keep bringing this up, but they are incredibly difficult to pull out. And with each one costing a full energy if they don't have overcharge on, or even just half an energy when we have so few energy cells so far, it can be a lot. But on the left, I want to see this Dado. Wow, beautiful frame perfect mid-air sentry. They are just like, I don't think they've missed a single one so far. That is just absolutely amazing to me.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. Nice grounded sentry jump as well. Let's see if he's able to get up here. Oh, doesn't quite get the angle on the bash, but gets up to the lever, is able to pull it. QTM to restore health, energy, and save a bit of time as Bobies is approaching the combat arena that sometimes gives trouble. I've kind of found for myself that if you QTM the previous puzzle, it kind of gets a bit more consistent, but apparently not in the case of Bobies.
Yeah, this is tough. So this is like one of the weird voodoo RNG things in the run where if we do a sequence break on the puzzle, sometimes that door can just be closed, forcing you to do the arena. But doing a QTM here, yeah, so you just literally has to keep trying these like QTMs in order to try and get that door to become open. And so we're gonna see how Dado's luck is coming through this section. And if Bobies is going to be really locked here with having to try and retry this over, no, they aren't. They are able to get through the door. Okay, so if Dado is able to actually get through here on their first approach, and they are, that is going to be some really nice time save made up by Dado. Just a number of seconds over the person they are racing against here today.
Yeah. So that's a bit of time save as we approach the next skill tree here, and we are gonna collect 3 keystones here. As you remember, we got that extra keystone at the keystone door skip, and the 4th one is actually faster once you have water dash, so we will collect that later. And Dadoja opting for the safe version here to collect the seed for the save point and then be able to have a few more tries. I think might have been low on energy as well, so QTMing to get some of that back. So now no, didn't quite get it. Oh, there we go. Nicely done.
Yeah, very nicely done. So both of our runners are going to be opting to take this early water dash route, and this pairs actually really nicely with the like keystone keystone door skip that we saw earlier in the run, that like incredibly precise trick, because as we see, Bobies is grabbing that fourth keystone that you normally need to open the door if you don't do that sequence break in the early game. And so being able to get that with Water Dash is like a bajillion times faster than otherwise. But here we would like to go and fight Qualic at this point, as Bobies with the load on opening the map. However, we're just going to grab the waypoint, teleport out, because we are not allowed to fight the boss yet. So this is still faster for the run overall, even though we do this like teleport to get out. And it's simply just because going from Wellspring into Luma immediately is just so fast, as we see Dado also pick up that keystone.
Yeah, and we will see after Bobies fights Hornbuck that there's also a bit of a water section into woods, so Water Dash also speeds that up. But for now, some actual fighting a boss here that isn't right at the start of the game, so we'll see the usage of Shuriken and just the power of when it ricochets and off of the boss. You get so much damage in, especially since you can combine it with the sword slashes. There have been calculations and it's basically equal if you do it optimally, but it is just so much more comfy in some of the boss fights because the sword gives you back your double jump. But we will see that the Dadoja can just stand still and press a button. So advantages on both sides.
Yeah, the sword tech especially is a little tricky on Hornbug, because even when he's turned around to you, if you are too high and or too close to the boss, your sword will actually bonk off of the armor on the top. And so Bobies had to take an extra phase just because of having some of his sword slashes canceled out there. But still a really nice fight from them. And we see Dado absolutely shredding through Hornbug with those bow strats. Really well played by both of our runners. And now they are going to be heading on over to talk to Qualic, give him a high five, grab a wisp, and head into Silent Woods.
Yeah, and Bobies is gonna try to skip this little cutscene here, waiting for the autosave to appear to QTM and, yes, not watch some Moki tell him, oh, we can fish and swim again. I love
Yeah,
Moki
just
lore personally. It's a shame we don't get to see it, but of course, everything for the speed.
Yeah, Bobies was just a little too left to get the optimal continuation through, but really nice improvisation to be able to pull out those quit out strats before the cutscene started. The cutscene really does go very, very far. So if you like land on any of the ground before the water, it'll actually trigger the cutscene. So just nice heads up play to do the QTM. But Dado opting to watch the cutscene, you could see how short that cutscene is. So this is the amazing thing about speedrunning, is that like we have all these like tiny little optimizations all over the place that save a second here, a split second there. And so it's one of the things especially I love about Will of the Wisps, especially with so much of this text surrounding the weapon system itself. Like it's not just for fighting, but it's also for movement. Bobies on the right just has so few HP and energy, but is able to continue through. And grabbing this energy, they are going to be going for a sequence break here. Oh yeah, this regen dash, the wave dash can be so tricky in this spot. You have to be just barely far away from the wall. They get it third try. Very nicely done. And here, an even more difficult skip to kill.
Yeah, this is Coup skip. Because we still need Coup, but it's actually faster to do all the Coup stuff without Coup and then just getting her later. So we will be getting the keystones here with some nice mid-air sentries, as the Dode has to wait for some bubble cycles, because cycles are also a thing here. Oh, Bobby's taking an unintentional death. There are some intentional deaths here to be able to get back to Coup, but for now, we need to get those keystones. So what will happen is pretty much we will obtain Coup, die in a specific location, and it's voodoo, is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, true Shay. And so we see Bobies is going to be going up. They're going to be heading back to Q to like say hi to them. They're going to activate the save point, take a death, and this is going to spawn them with Q. So they are now riding Q, and then they are going to come over the cutscene, and that save trigger there to the right is where it normally saves, like at the end of the cutscene. But because Bobies hit it on the way in, hits the cutscene trigger, the game still recognizes that save, quits a menu, and then they're able to skip that cutscene. So well done, Bobies. Like nice showcase, like showing off those strats. As we see Dado on the left, this is like perfect timing just to see how long they have to wait for this cutscene itself. And then when Dado is able to like go through, they are going to have to do more progress, right? Like Bobies has already done a good amount of stuff in here.
Yeah, so Bobby's absolutely ahead. Also with the timer difference, of course, due to the longer load times. But I mean, I appreciate some good lore. And Ku lore, at least finding Ku, is definitely good lore. And an intentional death from Bobby's side to be able to skip this keystone door animation, unfortunately didn't have all of them in, apparently. Uh, well, sometimes you want to go too fast. Hopefully this time it works. Sometimes it can be a bit finicky.
Yeah, classic speedrunner moment.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was too fast. So here, Dado is going to be collecting a fourth keystone and then heading over to open the door. And they are going to be opting to skip a single keystone, I believe, in this area, which is just a little bit slower. So Bobies is going to be on I believe, a one keystone advantage coming through here because they went for that coup skip. And so we'll see how Dado sort of handles that in the late game. But both of our runners doing a very nice job using that coup movement in order to head through Silent Woods. It definitely could be deceiving how easy it seems like a lot of these platforming are with the extra like sort of floaty nature of coup itself, but really like landing on those platforms in precise moments and being able to change those directions in order to shorten distance is going to be critical in this Metroidvania for progressing through quickly.
Yeah, and both doing an excellent job as some more lag and some more mouse shaking on Bobby's side. It can be really frustrating if you just lag in random areas. Fortunately, this isn't one of the real bad areas for lag. And we will be heading. Let's see if Bobies goes for the cutscene skip. I believe he might be. If you are fast enough here, you actually skip one of the cutscenes here, but unfortunately doesn't get it. We have to see Shriek sticking her head through this tunnel, but it is only a minor time loss, so not too bad as we're heading into the second part of the coup cutscenes, which fortunately most of it can be skipped. We don't want to cry even more during the speedrun.
Yeah, speedrunners cry enough. Let's spare our runners a little bit more of that suffering. As Dado is
Yes.
going to also be watching this Shriek cutscene, and now they are going to be heading over in Bobies. It does seem like there is just over maybe like a 20-30 second differential between our runners. So honestly, like a very close race, right? Bobies has been benchmarking his first qual time like 5 minutes ahead of his opponent, and going into this like mid to late game portion, they are pretty close, and so that is really awesome to see.
Yeah. Close races are always great to see. As we head into the bracket stage, they might get a bit more sparse because of the way the brackets work. So being able to showcase some tighter matches in prelims is just always fun. And we're getting head from our word from our truck. 37 seconds of difference in a 34-minute run. That is not a lot.
Yeah, that's impressive, and like especially because we're past the halfway point, things are going to change like pretty drastically with the type of content that you're actually going to see. Like we have a little bit of cleanup here, but no, now it's time to progress. And so now that we have gone over, we've seen Ku take a nap. They were a little sleepy, so they're taking a little bit of a nap. They let us borrow one of their feathers. We are now going to be heading and doing a massive boss rush before we're heading sort of into the late game portions. And so this is going to be showing off probably some of my favorite content within Ori and the Will of the Wisps itself, because we are going to be sequence breaking a lot of skills, a lot of content that you would normally see, but then also showcasing off some amazing strats, such as what Dado is doing on the left.
Yeah, and this is actually the main reason we see a route divergence here is that Qualock usually is considered the hardest boss in the game, but Qualock has that nice feature where he is next to water, and water, if you drown in it and you bash the frame you die, you get this weird state where you don't take any damage, but you also can't bash or use or have spear actually. So we'll be doing Qualock first because, well, who cares how hard a boss is if you can't die?
Indeed. And so on the right, we're also going to be seeing Bobies move through Moldwood Depths. And so we are actually not going to be picking up Flash here, which is the skill you get in this dungeon, because we have a different way of mitigating the darkness. So you'll notice that when we move into sort of the black screen sections, there's going to be a small light circle around Ori. So if this completely closes into Ori, this is actually going to cause Ori to take a death. But firing the bow is a glitch that allows us to actually reset the darkness itself. So both the timer as well as the acceleration that the circle moves in, because the smaller the circle gets, the faster it actually moves in. So bow doing both of those things for us allows us to be able to do some really amazing tech, as we see Bobies actually going for an optimal lifestyle fragment here, which is cool. Just a little bit of additional safety. And I like this play, especially in a tournament setting, right? Because the goal of a tournament is to reduce your average time to be as low as possible, because the thing that's going to win you matches in tournaments is going to be consistency.
I just want to point out that Dado gave us a good look at Quorlock's butt here, trailing behind him for a good while because, well, since he's invincible, the hitbox of Quorlock doesn't actually hit him. And so now he's able to just start damaging him. There's very fun to watch, as Bobies is also gonna start his fight very soon. But you can just see Dadoja being able to just not move means he is able to put out a lot of damage in a very quick succession. Now just in the boss being able to use the sword for big capacities to stay in the air. And by Quorlock.
Wow, well done. Nice fight from Dado using that God mode to really, really good intent, like staying close to the boss to fire those shots. But on the right, this is one of, if not the hardest boss. It's going to be more. There's going to be 3 phases in this fight. So Bobi's taking damage already. This can be very spooky, especially heading into the later fight. But now they are set up, dashing away, dashing back into the boss. They are continuing to try and land enough sword damage to continue to stun lock the boss. And now they are heading into this next part of the first phase. Yeah, look at that. Look at those damage stunts with sword and the shuriken tech. Nicely done. And we are close. Oh, Mora summoning those spiders. But the good news is with sword tech, the spiders actually do not really matter that much. Taking an intentional death there in order to get rid of the spiders is a very, very nice play. Nice heads up. And so that's going to actually despawn them. If Bobies hadn't done that, then the spiders would have spawned in the 3rd phase as well. So taking a split-second time loss in order to be able to get rid of those, in order to have a much easier time. Because in this next part, there's going to be darkness. And not using the bow means that we are going to have very limited options at the end of the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And one note for the Dadoja side, Bobies won't be able to show us that even if he had the God mode, the butt of Quorlock, just because, of course, he doesn't have God mode, but also because patch 2 does have the rubber bending still intact. So Quorlock is actually as fast as you, whereas in patch 3, what the Dadoja is playing on, Quorlock always has the same speed, so we can just afford to be behind him. But Bobies, wow, insane gameplay. While I was talking about that, pretty much already done through Mora. Just needs to shoot some arrows sometimes to stay in the light. Oh god.
Yeah, so the sword doesn't generate light, so they have to try and stay in the lantern. They're able to get it. Nice fight from Bobies. Oh my goodness. That was very scary, and Bobies just made that look very, very easy and relaxed.
Yeah, and the Dadoja is actually still on PB pace, so really nice to see.
Wow.
As both runners are heading into the same area. We're going to say hi to Bauer. We're gonna blitz through the area and just do the escape, grab the wisp, and be gone again. No one cares about Light Burst. As we head in there, we use the abilities we have as we get a quick resync just to be able to have both runners at the same time. And you can see that Bobies is still quite a bit ahead due to load times, not quite as much. Or rather, due to load times, it looks differently. But now we get into Bowers.
Okay, here we go. And so, yeah, a little bit of lag there from Dado. So timer, a little bit of timer discrepancy there. Don't worry about it. But they are going to be heading now into Bower, further into Bowers. And so both of our runners using those sentry jumps in order to build additional height. and they are able to make it up to this first switch, and then we are going to be heading over to the right in order to activate like an avalanche and then do an arena, and then we're going to float up and do the escape. And so it'll be interesting to see, if either of our runners or both of our runners actually end up opting to do the sequence break leading into the escape. And also important note here is that Dado actually still has God mode up. There was a lantern that he could have bashed off of in order to be able to build necessary height in order to be able to get through, but then just opting not to do it in order to be able to hold onto that God mode for this section. Being able to stand on those spikes definitely helps a lot.
More importantly, he didn't QTM during the lever animation, because QTMing also gets rid of your God mode, so even though it would save time to pull that or to QTM to skip that lever animation, it would lose time because you would need to get God mode back or use fighting patterns that you are not too familiar with. But now we can see one nice ability of Sentry in both cases is that it melts ice. If you place it and it explodes, it has this tiny moment where it produces fire, and that is enough to melt ice and light lanterns as we get into another fight room on both sides, and we're getting another timer resync, so we can potentially see synchronized combat.
All right, here we go. So on the right, we're going to see Bobies tackle this first as we are resyncing the timers. And so they're going to be bashing over to the other side of the boss in order to be able to get on the other side of the shield. Nicely timing there. Does not want to bash too early. If they do end up doing so, then what ends up happening is that they will actually end up running into some trouble. But Bobies going down to a fraction of health. They are going to be unequipping Overcharge in order to hopefully get like maybe a health drop or something. But if they take a single hit here, they will end up taking a death and having to restart this entire arena. But they did get a nice health drop and another one. And so they are going to be going up to a more comfy 3 HP, because energy really isn't going to be too important here, especially because Shuriken does not cost really that much energy. And we're only going to be doing like 1 to 3 sentry jumps throughout the rest of this area, unless Bobies is going to be going for some movement optimizations in this glide area.
Yeah, and you can see Dadoja having a bit of an easier time because of that God mode. Can just dash through the enemies, position himself however he wants. Is gonna take the dip down here because remember, he did not pick up the last keystone in Woods, so is currently 1 keystone, well, not short, but it is a faster keystone than the one in Moldwood, so is gonna get this as Bobies is the first one to reach the escape here and is going to try for the skip here. Doesn't quite have the height, so will try to reset. The Doja on the left also making the ascension towards the escape as Bobies is setting up for it again. You need to hit some mid-airs and be in a very specific position to not void, but also get into the escape, and gets it. And once you have started the escape, you're good to go, because the start of the escape saves.
Yeah, honestly, good. I'm actually kind of glad for like caster part reasons that Bobies failed it the first time, just simply because doing that QTM actually got some health back. As we see Dado on the left. Let's see if they get it. And they also get it. Very nicely done. That positioning is really, really quite precise. Too far to the left, then you do not actually trigger it, and you are like still blinded. But no! Bobies taking a death in the escape. They are going to have to start not only the entire thing over again, but they will have to do the entire skip in order to enter this here escape again. So wow, that is really massive for the state of the race. 2 kill.
Yeah, Dadoja now in the lead for quite the first time since the start. Let's go. Is gonna get into the end of this and will be there. But there will be a 30 seconds, 40 seconds mandatory cutscene that he needs to watch soon, because he does have the God mode and can't QTM it. So we'll see how it goes here, as Bobies is also finishing out the escape, is on the better health here. So hopefully able to finish it out. Just this water section dashing through to the end, and whew, we're good.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, right? Because we still have to have that routing divergence. So all Bobies has to do is just take the Luma Pool's teleporter and go fight a boss, whereas Dado has to go all the way through Moldwood. And so if Dado is able to bust out some really good tech and be able to have really succinct movement and then have a clean Mora fight, then they will have a really, really nice time over their opponent with that escape time save. But Moldwood honestly is like one of the trickier areas, especially if you're less familiar with the movement. But both of the runners pulling out some really advanced stuff, so I'm sure Dado is going to have a good time. But also, I mean, the Mora fight with Bo is just incredibly scary because the hitbox on the head is so incredibly small. And if Dado is going to opt to like bash at any point in time or like do some sort of QTM, then they are going to have to honestly like go into that without God mode. And with those 3 really scary phases, Bo can be very, very tricky to work into that fight.
Yeah, so we will have to see Dado now through with the cutscenes. Bobies will have the cutscene at the end. That is mandatory to watch, even if you have QTMs available to you. Wow, nice wave dash on the side of Dado to get to this cutscene, and we will see one of the keystones getting collected here with another wave dash. Wow, very nicely done. Of course, he doesn't need to worry about the darkness closing in as Bobies did earlier, because he is still invincible. And of course you still want to see, so we will see some occasional bow shots, I imagine, as Bobies is heading through the escape. Does not have to wait for Qualock, this is patch 2, so Qualock immediately follows, and we will see why Bobies is taking that shuriken on this boss fight specifically.
Oh man, Dado just skirting barely out of range of the death timer on the darkness there, just absolutely flirting with death. And oh my god, Dado, you're going to give me a heart attack. This is just so incredibly tight gameplay by them. And oh, not quite getting the height they want with the sentries. And they're still trying to exist because the sentries they give off a little bit of light, but they don't actually reset it. But Dado not get it, like taking a single death there as Bobies is absolutely cleaning up Qualock. Very, very nice play from them. And so we're coming up to it, right? There's going to be a bit of a longer cutscene at the end of Qualock. So after this cutscene ends and both of the runners teleport out, that is when we will know exactly how far away both of our runners are from each other. So Bobies with a QTM, and then they're going to just chill and chat with Qualock for a bit before he fades away to Happy Land. And then Dado is now going to have to take the bow fight with Mora.
Yeah, and of course, with the God mode, still is able to just stand in one place, potentially just inside of Mora, because once you stand inside the boss, it doesn't matter where the head is, because you just hit it immediately. So you can just see shredding through the health bar, getting the swooshes in here now, maybe to preserve some energy. Now gonna continue with the bow, and hopefully gonna get up here in time, because if you don't get the sentry jump, you are kind of screwed, but no problem here, gets up. Grapple is still fine in God mode, even though it is the same bind, so can progress towards the third phase. And also, since no death timer is there, like, it should be fairly easy. The only problem is, of course, there's 2 lanterns, but since there's nothing to grapple, you don't really have a reason to ever use it, so it should be good, as we see some sad lore on the right. And, well, the boss just melting.
Yeah, so scary part here is that there are spiders, but it's not scary because, yes, God mode is still up. And so, honestly, the scariest part for God mode is the escape sequence itself. You really do have to nail that sentry, get the optimal height in order to get through. And nice fight from both of our runners. This is just so incredibly close to call, because we do have a timer discrepancy because we're running time without loads for the tournament. So we will exactly see what that time differential is for our 2 runners, as Bobies is now ending that cutscene, and they are going to be teleporting out. So yeah. 1 second difference to kill. One with Dado just very slightly in the lead. Or no, it looks like 2 seconds ahead for Bobies. Okay. So, man, this race is just so close to call, and coming into this end game section 2 kill, anything can happen, especially in Willow's End.
Yeah, this is wild, and it's yet again important to point out that the Dadoja has God mode. It means that he will be able to skip some laser sections, that Bobies potentially needs to wait, but let's check out this feeding ground skip. We don't want to hit the floor. Okay. Doda is good. The Doda is good. Bobies is good as well, but Bobies is going for the extended skip here to not watch this cutscene and seems to be getting it very nicely done. Does not need to watch this cutscene, so it's just getting a bit of a bigger lead. Still not a big lead by any means.
Yeah, so in Ori and the Blind Forest, we have this meme where a lot of races, for whatever reason, in tournaments come down to this very end final escape in Ori and the Blind Forest. And so it's like, it's all going to come down to the final escape. And really, in this run, is like, it's all going to come down to these final areas in the final dungeon itself. Bobies taking a bit of a death, but that's okay to save point. And no, they take another death. So this is just buying seconds for Dado to be able to close that distance and come back in. Even with that nice cutscene skip that we saw from Bobies. But Bobies opting for a good sentry jump, gets the grapples, as Dado is also matching pace for pace. He's just so incredibly close to his opponents. But Bobies is going to be taking a slight lead here, coming over to Burrow Tree.
Yeah, and that is the second to last tree we're gonna get. Only one skill after that, which is the most powerful skill in the game. And we are, well, what? Not even 10 seconds apart at this tree. So incredibly close, as you mentioned. Any death, any kind of mistake can lose you the race here. And of course, Shriek energy. Shriek energy is always a factor. So hopefully, like, I always hope it doesn't come down to Shriek energy, because that just doesn't feel good.
Agreed, but as a caster, I kind of want it.
Okay.
Oh boy. Okay, so Bobies is going to be progressing first towards the Story Temple. Story Temple Town, as Dado nice back up there with a midair sentry in order to be able to close the distance to start that burrow. And so you're going to notice that there's going to be a little blue circle that shows up whenever you are close enough in order to be able to hit a certain burrow. And so this could really come down in a lot of areas, especially once again in Willow's End, in order to be able to get through. But Bobies coming over here with the shot, they are going to be breaking the wall and then coming through. And so we're going to see what Dado does here. I believe they did do a QTM, so God mode should no longer be active. But that's okay, because God mode doesn't really matter too much for the rest of the run, because we are going to have to be doing a bunch of bashes and stuff. But yeah, they broke the wall and they did confirm damage, so they did take a little bit of health. But I actually like this play from Dado dropping the God mode, even though they're coming into the laser section where God mode could really help. Just simply because doing the QTMs does save time, and because this tournament is done with time without loads, each of those, right, does buy a tiny bit of time every single time you do one. And so with a race this close, that could mean all of the world, especially buying time for, as 2Kill and me were laughing about earlier, the Shriek RNG.
Yeah, absolutely. You just want to be prepared for it, hopefully have a bit of a buffer before your opponent, so you don't rely on it. But we are, what, maybe 15 seconds apart, 20, as we're into Winter in Ruins. Oh, Bobies accidentally not entering the door means we are tied again. We're almost tied again.
Yeah, nice job from Bobies, just making up a lot of time in Winstep waste, just really showing his like proficiency with the late game. And so if he's able to continue pace like this in Willows, that's going to buy him enough time where the RNG almost certainly will not matter in the Shriek fight. And so just very nice place. But honestly, I'm so glad that there's a section like this leading up to Willow's End, because the execution in this area is really not that difficult. There's lots of cutscenes, there's lots of load screens, and so this gives our runners a nice sort of relaxation aspect before they head into Willow's End, which is honestly, like, in optimal execution in an area, can be some of the most stressful sections in the game, especially near the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering though why Dadoja watched that cutscene. Maybe he missed the skip cutscene, but I do believe it's a bit lenient. I definitely want to ask him about this while we get some lore on what happened to Naivan here, and how Ori can potentially help out as we get to the last section on Bobi's side, and Dadoja QTMing on another lever animation. So yeah, we're really, really close. on the runners, both in this last lore area before the final area of the game. And we're gonna see Bobies activate this escape and then dying to the worm intentionally to be able to reset his health and energy, because for whatever reason, some escapes do give you your full health and energy when you start it. Some only give it to you after one death. And this is one of the second category.
Yeah, so now coming to the like sort of final cutscene that we have to watch for Bobies and Storytime Temple. They are going to be finishing off Sire, which is going to complete the Wisp altogether, and which is going to allow us to be able to progress towards Willow's End. This is a nice flag for them to go through, but there also is going to be escape sequence here, which honestly is going to be very scary on keyboard and mouse near the end of the escape, because things get narrow, and on keyboard and mouse we only have oh my goodness, my brain can't do math, 8 coordinate movement. And so that can be very, very scary when we're doing burrow and trying to constantly use this skill to go fast. Because if you bonk into a wall, that completely shifts the angle and like can cause you to just get stuck moving, oh my god, perpendicular between those wall segments back and forth. And that can just cause you to get absolutely eaten by this worm, which does have rubber banding as we're going through. So basically, the faster you go through, the faster the worm will catch up. So that can be just very, very scary at the end sections, especially.
Yeah, you definitely need to be very aware, but Bobies having done multiple categories in this game that have this escape, and also many hours into randomizer, and has seen this area a fair share. I think he will be fine. Oh, okay. As I said, that a very moment, bonking into the wall, as you mentioned, can be a bit scary, but gets through it, gets a bit more lead to the worm, and now a bit of a chill section here. We're just gonna wait for the worm to pass, and now onto the races again, as the Dadoja is also almost starting the escape. Bobies in the last stretch, getting towards the sand, and yeah, right. Just showing that KBM is totally fine here.
Yeah, this is the scary part right here on the right. Yeah, Bobies slowing down. Very smart play. Very smart play from Bobies. Man, that was so great, recognizing that his angles were off there. So there he skipped 2 of the extra burrow dashes in order to just guarantee that he didn't bonk, right? Just guaranteeing you get through that escape, right? If he had taken to death there at the very end of the escape, that makes him have to restart the entire one, bringing back Dado like to be on parity, if not in the lead versus him. And Bobies just taking a little bit of a break here. This is actually faster for the speed run itself, just waiting here and then teleporting out, although it doesn't get us the quote unquote additional health from getting another wisp. But that's okay. That's okay. Like Bobies, as Chukil was mentioning, is a very veteran and skilled runner in this game. So cool to see Bobies break out this tech. And then Dado is continuing to move through the escape. Very nice movement so far, utilizing that additional analog movement with the burrow dashes, getting some very beautiful angles with those burrow dashes.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, I'm a controller runner myself, so just having you here to give insight on the KBM side is really cool and really helpful.
Yeah, same to you, same to you.
As we're approaching on Bobies' side,
oh yes,
I'm
sorry, on the right.
Yes.
Come on, do it. I love this. Oh, he didn't take a sentry jump. No, that's okay. That's okay. It's still a beautiful wave dash.
Yeah. Shoutouts to that extended wave dash. As Dadoja actually is gonna watch the cutscene, so we're not gonna see the waiting skip on that side. Bobies into the elevator fight, just needs to defeat 4 Golek before getting the most powerful skill in the game. Like there's no way there's anything more powerful in terms of movement.
No. So Bash, the iconic skill in Ori, both in the Blind Forest as well as the Will of the Wisps, allows us to grab onto enemies as Bobies goes down to 1 HP and he takes a death. Oh man, that is going to be some really nice time save for Dado if he's able to take that engagement first try. But man, Bobies must be kicking himself because this fight is just a 4-piece enemy one. But yeah, so in terms of launch, like Bash allowing us to grab onto enemies and basically resetting dash, resetting double jump itself. Launch is everything Bash is except for better, right? It's like it resets dash, it resets double jump, it allows us to like bash wherever. You don't need an enemy, don't need a lantern, don't need a projectile, and then yeah, you still have bash as a skill if you want to utilize it. So, oh man, this race just got very close. Dado might honestly be in the lead here, so we'll have to see.
It was 10 seconds difference of Bobies' second attempt compared to Dadoja starting his attempt. So
wow, okay.
They're slightly in the lead, but Dadoja has the faster fight due to both. So actually, at launch tree, I wouldn't be surprised if Dadoja is ahead, and Dadoja is actually ahead at his compared to his PB still. So
wow, that's awesome. Yeah, what a great run for Dado overall then. That's amazing, right? We were saying before the race started that Dado was within a minute of his PB, within a minute in a race setting, in a tournament setting for their first qualifier run out of a potential minimum of 3, maximum of 5, right? And now they're on PB pace. Like, this is so awesome to see. I'm like so excited not only to see the conclusion of this race itself, but also what both of our runners bring in the remainder of their quals.
Yeah, absolutely agree. As Dadoja is approaching the launch tree. Yeah, with about a difference of 10 seconds, so Bobies still ahead by 10 seconds as we approach the final area of the game, and this is pretty much the launch area. We're supposed to launch everywhere because there's not a whole lot in the Willow, so we'll see that nice launch option and we'll see how they'll use it, and if there's any heart that gives potential problems. Some hearts may have more disadvantages towards KBM players, some more towards controller players, so we will see how it turns out. Nice first heart of Bobies here. Once he gets through just 2 more portals, this will be done. Very amazing to watch.
Yeah, interesting tech here also I want to point out is that you may see Bobies end up launching into a diagonal at a specific angle on like horizontal surfaces, both ceilings and floors. And this is in order to build a little bit of additional distance as well as a little bit of additional speed. And this was actually one of the first glitches that was discovered in terms of tech. But here on the second heart for Bobies, this one is actually really tricky. Nice downward poker, hits the first laser cycle, gets hit on that next one, but that's okay. They're going to be very careful, able to get the sword slashes and launch underneath, and they are going for the quit to menu strats. And so Dado, is not going to be able to get the boulder escape, so he's going to be set back, but luckily the save is going to be right there, and they're trying to go over the boulder, maybe not knowing in the setup to be able to just stand underneath and slightly to the left. But no, okay, Dado is able to get it, so Bobies being able to take that heart a little bit faster.
Yeah, I do believe Bobies also started on the left, whereas Dadoja started on the right. So
Indeed.
it should be 2 hearts on the right compared to 1 heart on the left.
Yep, that is correct.
So 1 heart of difference as we're entering the portal towards the first teleporter in Willow's End, and are getting towards the bash heart. And that one can be a bit tricky on controller because of the duality of your Joy-Con being both your bash angle and the way you move. But Bobies on KBM, absolutely no problem. Those were some pretty good angles here. And he's also going for the QT. I'm not sure.
Oh no, the load.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah. He recognized that he didn't get the save point. And was not QTMing. Dadoja on the left going for the QTM. Not sure if that worked. I am not too familiar with spots here. But Bobies now into the burrow heart, still about 1.5 hearts ahead. It's kind of hard to tell because they take different amounts of time.
Yeah, I love like the tech that both of our runners are utilizing. Like the moment they get launched back, they're going to utilize it, right? The moment Bobies ended up grappling off of the lantern, they launched immediately. So here, is Dado going to go for Quidditch? They are. Okay, so utilizing controller is able to get the first one. Oh, that launch was a little late, but they're able to get it. Nice slowdown on that angle to just guarantee they got it. And Dado is also going to be able to match that. And I believe they got the save there, so Dado should be good on that heart. And Bobies, nice wave dashes. They are going to be progressing now to the upper portion before heading to the left side for those hearts.
Yeah, it is Also, it just showed that the duality of dash being both dash, burrow, and also water dash can be a bit annoying as Bobies kind of burrowed into the sand instead of wave dashing a few times. Dadoja almost done with it. Wow,
What was
nice
that?
upper right hard. Oh no!
Oh no, Dado. Oh no. Okay, yeah, taking a fall there. Bobies just busted out some wild movement. Man, I am going to have to go back and rewatch that later. Just taking damage boosts that I just haven't seen before, and then also just busting out some really, really terrifying angles on their movement. So very nice play from them. And so a really cool note here actually is that, funny enough, Wing Clip does not confirm additional damage on Shriek, the final boss, a flying enemy. However, on this floating elemental enemy, Wing Clip is actually going to increase Bobies' damage. And so they are going to be floating around with that sword tech, which is going to refresh double jump so that they can just kind of stay close to the center. And nicely done. They're so close, just a couple of shurikens, and they are able to take down the elemental. Nice fight as Dado is now going to be going for this heart here. Yes, no, they were just slightly to the right, and Dado just taking a death to kill.
Ah, quite unfortunate. Means that Bobies is getting further at it. His Willow is just going absolutely smoothly so far. Just 2 hearts left, and it's going to be quite a good run for him. So excited to see that, and is probably very happy to get that as well for one of his qualifier times, as it's now only 1 more heart to go. And Dadoja still has the combat heart as well as 2 more hearts to go, so yeah, has unfortunately lost some time here. But it is a very hard section of the game, especially because everything just deals so much damage, so you can't really get any damage. But luckily this mini-boss refills all your resources.
All right, Bobies is now going to be going into, oh yeah, just barely missing that cycle there. This section here, these 2 hearts that Bobies is like the one coming up as well as the one before, are some of the hardest movement to do like optimally, I feel, because it's definitely dependent on cycles, and you're just barely slightly off on the cycle as Dado gets a really, really nice boss kill there. If you're barely off on the cycles, then you just have to wait, and that can be like a matter of seconds. In a race setting, especially in a tournament as competitive as this, that can really decide a race, especially once we hit into the single elimination of brackets phase. But Bobies is indeed going to be the first one to make it over for Shriek. They are going to be ahead by a pair of hearts on their opponent, so this is probably comfy enough, but based on the RNG that we see in Shriek itself. But it's not over yet, because Shriek is definitely no cakewalk.
Yeah, the hardest boss, if you are not prepared for it, for sure. Has a lot of patterns that you need to kind of learn and recognize how to maneuver. Fortunately, with the sword, you are able to stay in the air on Bobies' side without any problem. Bo can be a bit more tricky, so Bobies just melted through the first phase, can kind of recognize what to do in that phase, as it doesn't really change. Dadoja trying to go for the skip on the left, doesn't quite get it first try. Will attempt it again as Bobies is escaping and almost to the face. Wow, that was a lag for sure.
Yeah, indeed. And we see some of these ground launches that Bobies is trying to go for, not quite connecting with the angles, but that is totally okay. Just getting through this escape sequence, coming here into the 3rd phase of the fight is going to be the important thing, because this is it. This is the phase that we always bring up as casters to be sort of hype and can be a race decider. So nice dodge there. Oh no, Bobies did take the hit there. So we're going to see if they slow down. No, they take a death. But the good news is that was near the beginning of the 3rd phase, not near the end of it, 2-kill.
Yeah, absolutely. Also going to regenerate some health here to be extra safe. Can try to throw some shurikens. As you can see, it's a bit hard to hit them sometimes. You need to get the angles just right. But Dadoja is also entering the final area of Willow. Gonna start his fight very, very soon, as Bobies gets some really good RNG here on Shriek and some really good damage. Wow, that was maybe 1 or 2 more seconds away from getting to the final phase. So hopefully we'll get the damage, and there we go, the health part disappears, so we are into the final phase. So we can just sit in a comfy tight spot and wait for a bit, as Dadoja is starting up his last fight here, and it is looking good for Bobies, but the fight isn't over yet. We need to stay in the air for a bit and then deal some more damage to Shriek, so let's see how it goes for both runners.
All right, this is it. Eyes on the right. If Bobies is able to clean out this phase with nice smooth sailing, as they are currently doing, they are going to be closing out with a win here in this race. And this isn't necessarily a win because this isn't brackets, but it is qualifiers. So every second counts on getting that average time. And Bobies able to close out the fight. Beautiful phase one, beautiful final phase with only a single death in that third phase itself. And they are going to be pulling out a timed win versus their opponent. And once again, this was not a 1-versus-1 match. This was simply a free-for-all where we were showcasing these two runners being side by side. And so 107.01.27 is going to be the time for Bobies. GG, my friend.
Dadoja just like surviving with the slither of a health, just standing totally in the way of Shriek. That was so calculated. Wow. That was great to see. Oh no, the RNG. The RNG is trolling a bit.
Oh,
this is
yeah.
one of the phases you really don't want to see because you just can't speed it up.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the worst, but this is one of the best. And so Dado is going to be launching up, using those sword slashes to be able to retain their self in the air, shooting out some bow shots as the boss is going to be flying away to try and utilize that DPS. And so with the diagonal, they're going to be launching up and to the right, and then they are going to get another bad pattern here. But fortunately, it is a short one. And so here, oh, nice pattern here. So the boss is going to be coming down, potentially breaking a portion of the ground, speeding up sort of the start to the final phase itself. But Dado, with being really low on energy, is going to have to utilize that sword tech in order to be able to finish out the boss fight. And with that laser phase, that is definitely going to be able to bring them in. But no, the boss still needs to hit Dado. No,
Oh,
Dado!
The caster curse. Oh no. Still needs to wait. Oh no, another swooping attack. Doesn't quite get the bow in just yet. Oh no. Okay, this is a good phase to get the final damage in. Wow, it was just one more bow shot. So now can go to the right and also wait out some swoops. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So Dado with the intentional death there to be able to refill their energy and potentially a little bit of health, and then they are going to heal up as they wait on this sort of auto-scroller section. And then standing there just guarantees that they are not going to be hit. And so here comes Shriek, swoops in, completely misses them, and then 1 stomp, 2 stomp, 3 stomp, and now we are going to be heading into the final portion.
Oh, takes one of the swoops. Needs to be a bit careful about health. Oh, calling it. Oh, oh no! Nope, doesn't quite get up. Oh,
he
needs to do it again. Bobies on the right deciding not to finish the curl. Understandable. It's just 3 minutes of holding right. So, not getting a final time for the leaderboard, but wasn't PBing anyway. Dadoja just chilling here, waiting for Shriek to destroy the entire ground, as one does. Now avoiding the swoops, maybe with a bit more height this time, looking good. And opting to use the sword to be able to stay in the air. Good call to not fall down again. And yes, there we go, GG.
Nicely done, GG. Maybe not the end game that Dado was really hoping for, but just such an impressive display, right? That mid game was so incredibly excited where our runners were neck and neck, especially during that Bowers Reach escape where Dado just had really nice, smooth, clean play as they were going through the boss rush portion of the run itself. And then just having that consistency going into windswept ways just made this race so incredibly close, so incredibly excited. But the story of the day was indeed Willow's End. Bobies with a beautiful execution in the very late game portions, able to close out the win. GG, Bobies.
Yeah, GG. And we do, in fact, have both our runners up there for an interview, so we will drag them in to be able to ask them some questions. GG to both of you. Great race, great times overall.
Thank you. GG's to Dadoja.
Yeah, and maybe starting, how did you feel about that Willow, Bobies?
Willow was fine from time to time, and then sometimes not great, but it was pretty good. I think I was a tiny bit off of what my goal is for now. So it's not that bad. Pretty good Willow overall.
Yeah, pretty good, I would say as well. And Dadoja, maybe similar question to you. How did you feel about your Willow? You might need to unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I think that my Willow went pretty well. Like I got all of the hard things that are hard for me usually first try, but yeah, I made some small mistakes that lost a bit of time. But the main problem was the Shriek fight. I think you saw that on stream.
Oh yeah, that was so unfortunate. And about losing time, maybe can you tell what happened in the ruins cutscene? Were you trying to skip it and it didn't work, or?
The ruins cutscene.
Yes, at the start of ruins. There's a cutscene and you were watching it, and I'm not sure. Maybe you just don't know you can skip that cutscene. Actually,
Wait, you can skip that cutscene? Oh,
Yeah.
yes, you can.
Okay, well, that's some free time save right there. Okay.
Free time save. Okay.
Nice. So yeah, I guess a question for Dado specifically. Like, it was really cool seeing like the differences between controller and KBM. Like, I mean, of course, like the burrowing is something that we bring up a lot in the community, but specifically like mid-air sentries. Like your Wellspring was incredible to me, where you were just busting out all these mid-air sentry jumps like perfectly on that like 3-frame timing window. Do you have a specific input method that you utilize to be able to get those so consistent?
I think that in this run they were more consistent than they usually are, but I don't really have like a secret technique or anything. It's just like a slide of the finger on the controller, right? And it usually works for me.
Wow, it's amazing. That is so cool to hear. That was very impressive to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and maybe a different question to you, Bobies. Towards that shuriken, how much time did you spend like optimizing the route as one, and also just optimizing your fighting technique?
I mean, my fighting technique was absolutely terrible this run. Like, it didn't feel very fluid or anything. Shriek was okay, but the rest was pretty I need to work on that more. The routing took a little bit, but it's really similar to what we do in ACF. So I mostly based myself off of that and just added some stuff for TPA and for the Reckless upgrade.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and so like, is this shuriken especially just something that you labbed out yourself, or was it just sort of based off of like the community, like when people like posted that community optimization guide for the damage outputs to Bobies?
I think I kind of just did it at the start of learning MQO, which was like, I don't know, like a month or two ago. Because I just really did not enjoy the bow combat.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't having fun. And so I just decided that Shuriken looks fun and it does like similar amounts of damage towards
Word.
Shriek. But yeah, it's clearly less optimal, like on Mora especially, you can see. But I like it more. It's more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you plan to like switch up your route potentially for the upcoming races, for the upcoming part of the tournament, or are you happy with where it is now?
Full on Shuriken, my side.
Okay. Yeah, then do you have any more questions, Muffin?
Yeah, sure. So I guess a final question for both of you, right? We're coming close to the end of quals in terms of the day. We have like 3 more days left before those are going to be closing out. And so both of you just need to do one more in order to qualify, or you have the potential to do up to 3. So why don't we start with Dado? Like, do you have like a goal in terms of your qualifiers? Like, are you trying to close out a PB? Because like you were on such a good pace, like in terms of your personal best throughout like all of this, like until Willow's End, right? And so do you have like a goal around that, or are you just going to try and close out the best times that you can and take it a day at a time?
Well, the the goal for me is always to PB, right? So if I can PB in a qualifier, that's like a bonus. But yeah, the main thing is just getting a good time in general. But I go for like all of the risky strats that I know how to do. So yeah, if I do everything right, it's gonna be PB.
Word. Okay. Yeah. And same sort of question to you, Bobies, right? I mean, your execution this run was like so beautiful until that little slip up in Bowers. So are you going to try and like bring down your average, or are you just looking to close out some solid times and move into brackets just feeling good?
I would have loved to aim for like under 105 runs, but I'm not sure I'll have enough time this week, and it's going to be a bit tight. But I'm kind of in a middle ground between like really excellent runners and then like more, I feel like mid ground runners, and so I'm in a good spot to be seeded, honestly. So I don't feel too much pressure about my times right now.
Cool. Sounds
Yeah.
good. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, well then reminder that the last qualifiers will be on the 20th, so that is this Thursday, so you need to get in your runs before that, hopefully. Yeah, but with that, we don't currently have another restream planned. We potentially will do more restreams depending on people's availability, but for tonight, yeah, thank you all for watching. We've had Zri on the restream. We've had Apple supplying us with all the little stats on the track. And I was joined by my wonderful co-commentator, Covert Muffin. And we will see you all soon again in the main quest order tournament. Have a wonderful rest of your day, night.